was our foster daughter, and she was 5 months old.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get started. Sam? Okay. All right, we're going to call to order the Executive Committee of the Solid Waste Authority's meeting for June 15th, 2026. If you would, please call the roll for the Executive Committee.
Chair Ryan.
Present.
Vice Chair Furr.
Here.
Member Shuham.
Here.
Member Horland.
Here.
Member Dunn.
Here.
Member Rydell.
Here.
Member Mead.
Here.
Member Caggiano.
Present.
Member AJ Ryan. Member Newton.
Here.
Alternate Colborn. Alternate Murphy Salamone.
Here.
Alternate Bright Cruz.
Here.
Thank you very much.
All right, if you would, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
All right, we'll begin with public comment. I don't have anyone signed up for the Executive Committee. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on any matters before the Executive Committee? We'll have the Governing Board meeting after the Executive Committee. All right, I'm going to close public comment at this time. You have anybody? Go. Okay, great. All right, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for May 18th, 2026? Motion by Member Rydell, second by Member Caggiano. Any discussion on that item? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. All right, item 5. As you know, Executive Committee members, I circulated a memo a few weeks ago with respect to some potential changes to the Second Amendment of the ILA. Since then, based on the comments that we've heard from various commissions about the importance of having an additional potential opt-out untied or untethered to the results of the market rate results from the RFP, in combination with what appears to be spirited support for what we're trying to do here, suggested that perhaps we should reconsider this. I got with Mr. Cole, and we have drafted a revised Second Amendment to address the issue of an opt-out. As you remember, we had 5 options last time, and the item that passed was an opt-out at 25 years and an opt-out essentially at the end of 2027 in the event that the governing board recommended an award of a contract outside of the market rate guidelines that we had set. Given the meetings that I've seen and what appears to be, again, spirited support for what we're trying to accomplish rather than undermining it, and instead wanting to make sure that everyone can participate and that we stay on track to achieve the greatest good for the greatest all. I have put forward an additional amendment for consideration by the Executive Committee, and if it passes the Executive Committee, by the Governing Board. Now, on the last vote, we were 10-8, and I want to again give credit to Member Rydell for what I thought was an innovative, and I intend to use it in my own life going forward, to explain why did folks vote no. And it was quite revealing. Some were on the principle of we should all be in without exception. Some voted no because they wanted the additional opt-out untethered to the market rate RFP results. But what we didn't hear was a no vote against what we were trying to achieve. And as a result, the mechanism for this, as I understand, talked to Mr. Cole, is being on the victor side, that I could bring, surrender the gavel, if you will, to Vice Chair Furr and seek a motion for reconsideration, or any member on the side of the winning 10-8 vote could seek a motion for reconsideration. That would be voted on, and then we can address the merits of the additional proposed opt-out. I don't want to get too formal, so I want to hear what everyone feels about this as we move forward, and whether there would be anybody willing to make the motion for reconsideration who was on the victor side. So I'll open up to the members. Okay, Member Furr.
I would be willing to make motion for reconsideration just for discussion at first. The one thing that, and I know there are a couple of cities that were wanting to have that opt out without any conditions on it. I just want to kind of say what that means, and I want us all to consider what we're voting on there. And I may be supporting it, but I think we all need to know what it means. The main thing that I'm concerned with a little bit is that this.
Well, why don't we do this for efficiency? If you're going to make, and we're going to have a discussion.
That's fine. I'll make a motion to reconsider.
All right. Is there a second on that motion? Second by Member Rydell. All right. So now we're talking about the motion for reconsideration. Does anyone wish to have a discussion on the motion for reconsideration, the merits of that motion? All right, Mr. Cole, do we need a voice vote or a roll call?
You can do a voice.
Okay. All in favor of the motion for reconsideration, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, the motion for reconsideration passes, and now we can move forward with a motion to consider the second amendment that's been proposed as this week. Do we have a motion on that for discussion purposes? We make the motion?
Make the motion.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Member Shuham. All right, now we're open discussion. Member Furr, you had the floor.
Thank you. All right, good. So the first thing we were discussing, let me just go back to the motion that we're talking about. This is the motion to allow for opting out if we didn't meet the prices that we thought we would meet. So this would be wide open. People would be able to reconsider it. My worry on this is this: it kicks the can down the road for another year. Correct? Am I correct on that?
I don't know that I would characterize it as kick the can, but it does allow for continued discussion over the next year. Yes.
Okay. All right. So right now we've been doing everything we can to educate every commission and every city commissioner in this entire county. Come November, there's going to be a whole lot of new commissioners, new commission setups, and you just don't know what's going to happen there. You don't know if the commissions that have already voted for this are going to still be in favor of it. To me, it's just we have done a tremendous amount of work to have to go redo that work. Maybe we don't have to. It's a risk. Let's just put it that way. It's a risk. On the other hand, if it brings in all the cities that are saying that they're not ready to do this without that, and I'm looking at Fort Lauderdale, I think Hollywood has mentioned that a little bit. I think Miramar's said that. I want to know from those cities, if we do this, are they going to be making a full, robust support to go forward? Because if they're not, I don't want to do it. And I would take a chance. I'm just being blunt. Because we have put in years worth of work of trying to educate people in this, not only the county commission, but people in this county. To go one more year on this, which is what this does. But, you know, it does give us a chance to continue education. And that's very important. That's the upside. There's silver linings to it as well. The 25-year opt-out, which is part of this as well, I think I don't have a big problem on that, because that's something that if we decided we wanted to build something at some point, then everybody can take a vote. So I don't think that's going to give anybody heartburn. But I do want to hear from those cities that this is essentially being written for, and that we are taking those cities into consideration. We've heard them that they need this to be able to go forward. I do want to hear from them directly that this is what they need to hear, and this is what they can go forward with, and convince their fellow commissioners this is what will get them over the finish line.
I think that's a fair request. Before I open up for comments, I want to point out 2 additional risks that caused me angst. And one was the result of attending the Hollywood meeting, where its disposal vendor got up and attacked the SWA. And it wasn't based on, in my opinion, on merits. It was based on concerns over their own parochial interests, that we as a solid waste authority could generate a system that maximizes our leverage on pricing and term that would cut out some members of the market. I say that not because I was concerned about the comments that were made, because I think they fell flat. But what I would say is, in the interim, where commissions are given the opportunity to potentially opt out, there will be members of industry chirping in the ears of elected officials. And some of us have strong relationships with our providers, some of us don't. But it does create a worry. I think the other minor issue is, how does industry respond to the RFPs if there's a potential for one or more to simply opt out for any reason that may not even be meritorious as we see it, but it's their own parochial decision. I am less worried about that, because I think, assuming we get by August 14th, the goal of the consultants in the RFP is to show that we have maximum tonnage, that we have the ability for maximum pricing, that we have everyone on board. And it is then the job of both the consultant and industry to either respond to that without creating all sorts of caveats and exceptions, or to create chaos. And I think this body has worked so hard to achieve what we know needs to be done over the next 20, 30, 40 years, that I may be optimistic, but I'm not, blind to the risks. But I think what we're doing here is that important. And that's our job over the next year, to keep everyone on board like we've been doing. For those that have been part of this since the Solid Waste Working Group, there were plenty of moments of existential threat as to whether or not we would even exist. And a lot of sharp elbows in negotiating ILAs and working together to achieve the greater good. And all we're going to have to do is keep doing that, keep working hard, and make sure we're having honest dialogue that's transparent and achieves the best for our residents and our businesses. So I accept what you say. There are those risks. But if we don't get by August 14th and we go back to the fragmented system of failure, the results will be catastrophic. And they will be that way long term. Even if some can declare a minor victory in the short term, the result will be devastating long term for this county, for our residents, and for our businesses. Member right down.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair, I hear your concerns. I don't know if they're necessarily well placed, and I'll tell you why. I've talked to probably over a dozen elected officials that are not represented on this board, but their cities are represented on this board. Skeptical elected officials that maybe have not been appropriately either educated by their respective colleague on the board, or have not had the bandwidth to engage in the process of this that we have, right? huge education curve, huge hyper technical, you know, we're talking 40 years here. And I understand, to go back to the last meeting, why certain members were, I don't want to say upset, but didn't want any of this. I also believe that while certain cities may have, we'll say, one commissioner or council member that is skeptical, I don't think any of us could say that that may not be the trend in 10 years. We don't know the shift of communities. This is something that has come up, that has picked up a little steam. It may not be the majority steam. I support it. I support it today, the amendment. I believe in the work we're doing, and I believe it will be for naught. I don't think it's going to make a difference. I really, truly don't. I think your comments in terms of the industry are extraordinarily salient and true. We, again, can't change or re-educate people to that component as well. So that being said, I think it's fair to ask, you know, Member Schuham or Member Sorensen their positions globally. They can't say that. And they have people on their body that for one reason or another may not be supportive of this. But if this is the carrot, hate to use that term, but if this is the carrot that brings everyone to the table, we'd be foolish to not support it. We'd be foolish to debate it. We are hearing from the large industry people, this is what needs to be done. Totally understanding you, Vice Mayor. And in my perspective, I believe in the work. I believe in what we've done. I believe it's going to not matter. I truly believe that with how we've set this up. So if this is, we need this to get forward, total no-brainer. I'm totally supportive of it. And I am happy to talk to any member of any commission or council about this, because I think I've, you know, to some of you that may or may not know, I've talked to members that, you know, some of you thought were going to be a resounding no, and it became yeses, right? On certain commissions. So I maintain that I will continue to do that. And I think that this is a slight, call it that, a slight deviation, but I think it allows certain actors to stay very committed to the work as a whole. And I fully support it with, and I think it's a little unfair, not unfair, that's the wrong word, to ask certain members in this commission that have been a little more contested to take a global position. I think it's very difficult. I think to hear that member's position is totally fair, but I think to ask certain elected officials that may be looking at that tagline, or they may be looking at the comments they made. And that's, we all got to realize that too. Certain elected officials have made public comments, whether through social media outlets, whether on their dais, whether in public meetings. And that matters, because an elected official, whatever capacity, is not going to roll back on something they said or that they want. And if we can deliver on what they said or they want, it makes this a lot easier to succeed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Rydell. Member Schuham. I'm going to go to Hollywood and Fort Lauderdale, and I'll come to Member Horland.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you and Vice Chair Furr, Jamie and Sam. I mean, this has just been such a process, and it's been really stressful. I know that everyone in this room wants this to succeed, but we are not the determiners. We are part of a democratic process, and a commission vote is really important. And I think I just want to share a couple things. First, I can say that the Hollywood, certainly me, and Hollywood staff will be 100% behind this going forward. They feel like this will get them over that hump. I don't know, can't speak for the rest of the commission, but I think this is something that will help our commission support this. To me, it's like a Hail Mary, really. If you don't do this, I may never see all of you, right? It's not worth that. Although it extends, it's a 1-year extension. That's how I view it. And there's just been so many interesting things that have come out of it. But one thing I've shared with a few people that I've talked to this about was very early in the process. People said to me, you guys are going to work like dogs. And then at the end, industry is going to come in and throw a wrench into the mix. I was like, no way. I was naive, because I feel like that's what's happened. We got very far along, and then somebody threw a monkey wrench into the mix. And the burden is on us, who know the most about this, to find our way past that monkey wrench. There's also a lot of discussions about large cities versus small, and it is true. Large cities have a lot of quantity. We get good pricing, but it doesn't undo fundamental economics, which is the more quantity, the cheaper the price. And that has been my point all along. And I will say, several months ago at my commission, when I conveyed to them in a way that I think is very accurate, that the idea of the facility amendment has gotten much simpler. There's not going to be a facility at this stage. Everybody was like, this makes it so much easier. This makes it so much easier. So this shifting, I will say, is somewhat unexpected. That said, I totally support this amendment. And I would ask, just want to talk about a few other things that are related. The first is when we go out for pricing, there's two components, at least, to any contract: pricing and terms and conditions. The pricing was the only thing mentioned, but terms and conditions obviously are important. My public works director has talked about, annual increases and things like that. Those are really material terms, but I feel like that RFP is not going out until all of us have the opportunity to share our best practices. And maybe big cities have done this more and longer, and the small cities are going to not only benefit from the pricing, they're going to benefit from the terms and conditions that we've had also. So terms and conditions, and Sam, this is going to be on you to really look at the best every city has brought to their contracts and make sure that it gets into this RFP. I think if this passes today, it gives us a little bit of a gift, and that is the gift to revisit some of the things in the ILA that were there and sounded great, but when we got close to the end, were raised by various members. So, okay, we have ways under the terms of the ILA to modify it. And so we will be giving ourselves a year to dig in and see where are these things, not wait until a year from now. So to the extent that any of us here feel that there are terms and conditions in the ILA that sounded great when we first approved it a couple of years ago, but may need tweaking, please bring them to this board as soon as possible so that we have plenty of time and all of that stuff gets resolved. And then I think the last thing I want to say, and we've all heard this expression, and I think you said it in your interview with WLRN, this is a once in a generation opportunity. And that's why I support this. I don't want to lose this opportunity. There's been so much time, effort, heart, and money put into this that if it takes another year, it takes another year. Better another year than another generation. And so with that, I support it. I want to just thank you for bringing it forward. Like I said, it's a Hail Mary and it's going to save the game. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Shuham. And to put in some context, to be clear, if this passes, we're not extending anything. The work isn't going another year. We were always on track on August 15th to have, assuming we exist, to have that first step of where the RFPs are. And to Member Shuham's point, if it passes and we're together, the hard work starts because of how to craft these. And I think your point about terms and conditions is hugely important, but not just that. Your call to action to every city who says, hey, we've wanted to be part of this process. We have ideas. We can no longer hold those up. That has to start immediately because the RFP is going to be the most challenging part of this process. As industry will pick and we'll try to divide. And for some, not all, we've seen industry come together and be part of this process, but there are some individual players out there who feel that they're under threat if this passes because of our ability to work together. So there's going to be that hard work, and I appreciate that call to action. Member Sorensen and then Member Horland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for this amendment. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Thank you, Vice Chair, for moving it. I have several process questions I wanted to ask, if that's all right, just for my own understanding. Again, one of the a rookie here just to kind of, so that I can best understand and then hopefully best communicate this to the rest of the Fort Lauderdale City Commission, if that's all right. So starting with the ILA, again, just these are very basic questions, but so I'm tracking. So this is a second amendment to the ILA. Can you just recap for me again any other amendments and the history of those amendments to the ILA, just so I can understand that?
Mr. Cole.
Sure. Thanks.
Yes. There haven't been any amendments yet. The first amendment is the facilities amendment,
Okay.
and that is what has been approved, I think, by about 15 of the members. And that has to be approved by August 14th, 15th. This second amendment will have to be approved by all the cities and the county who approved the facilities amendment. The facilities amendment itself had to be approved by population with 80%. So this will be presented, assuming it passes the recommendation of the executive committee and then the recommendation of the governing board, will be presented to all the cities, and they'll be asked to consider it as well, along with the facilities amendment before August 15th, although that's not technically the deadline.
Got it. So let me just play that back to you to see if I'm tracking. So the first amendment is the facilities amendment. That is to be approved by all of the cities in the county or the 85% threshold.
80%.
80%.
80%. And if that is not approved, the SWA goes away. I mean, that is a
Yep.
existential type of provision. This would not be, but that one is existential. If it doesn't get approved, the SWA ends in mid-August, and we'll have wind down, but it'll be over.
Got it. So then sequentially, the First Amendment has to be approved by August 15th.
That's
So
correct.
far, so good. The Second Amendment has to be approved by when? Is there a deadline?
There's no deadline. It'll be,
Right.
but we're going to try to do it along the same timeline so that everyone will know that it's done, but there's no specific timeline.
Yeah, as the chair, let me just take a point of order on this. Assuming it gets recommended by the governing board to be pressed out, it would go out today to all the cities, including those that have not yet voted on the facilities amendment. And the cities who have, that's why the timing is important. Everyone still has at least one meeting before summer break. And so the timing of this was critical to get it back out. I see no reason at all that any staff would ever oppose any of this in the 15 that have already approved this, or the county for that matter. So the goal would still be to have everything wrapped up by the 15th, and then we can address other ILA issues that I think have to be addressed moving forward. But the goal is to get this all done.
Great. Makes sense. So process wise, if the First Amendment is passed and the Second Amendment is passed, then the RFP process in terms of crafting the RFP begins. Am I saying that right?
You are.
Okay. The deadline for the RFP process to conclude, or remind me of that, if you don't mind.
There's no specific deadline right now. Under this proposed Second Amendment, there is a provision that says that the governing board will make the recommendation between October 1 and November 15th. And then there would be a 45-day period where cities or the county unincorporated area could opt out. So that's the timing that we plan. Now, we did put in a little flexibility just in case we're not done. You know, the governing board could extend that date if necessary.
And to put it some context, we have had some prior discussions early on the RFP process and the challenges. We're all familiar with the RFP process in our own cities. It is possible, and let's put this in some context. When the RFP goes out, as Member Shuham pointed out, it will be the product of every participating member and their staff crafting it, wrestling over it. What are the terms we want? What are the reasonable expectations? And when that goes out, so there won't be any shock as to what we're asking to achieve. Second, when the RFP responses come back and they get opened up, so to speak, there won't be any shock what's going on, right? We'll all know where we are. So you would expect if the process works and the executive committee works hard from August 15th on, that, you know, the RFP should be out probably within 90 days. And then you probably have 60 to 75 days for response, which puts us into the spring of 27 with results, long before a decision has to be made about, are we part of this or not part of this? There will be no secrets at that point. Everyone will know what the result has been. But we have to be mindful that it is possible that there might be, in whole or in part, a second RFP process if we identify either market risks we didn't calculate or reasons why we can achieve better pricing. So there's enough play in the joints to allow that process to continue as well. But the idea in this was to ensure that, one, all the cities were participating in the RFP process aggressively and meaningfully. Two, that when the process was opened up, the tough discussions that happened have sufficient time to come to consensus. And three, that it isn't so rushed that any city feels like, okay, well, this is going to be a cram down and it's going to be anything but that. So I'd say that because I think when you, not you, but when one looks at this, you say, okay, well, it doesn't look like they're going to do anything until October 1. That's not actually the case. We should know in the middle of spring of next year, are we close to achieving what we set out to achieve? And do we have to make any adjustments for it? So I just want to put that in some context.
Yeah, that's great. This is all really helpful for me. So again, going back to the timeline progression. So August 15, 2026, the hope is, you know, positive vote. Then is it Sam begins crafting the RFP? Is that what?
And this is in fairness to you, because I know, like you said, you're a rookie to this part of it. To go back in history, there were two things that were proposed. One was to go out on the RFP before we got to the facilities amendment and get a result.
Okay.
Second, I proposed an opt-out. Early. What we found from the RFP process, though, once it was started, before it went out, is that the consultants came back and said, industry's not going to respond because we can't tell you what amount of tonnage. There's been no commitment.
Got it.
This body's inchoate, if you will, in terms of whether it's going to exist. And when the consultant reported back, we as the executive committee and governing board had to make a major adjustment. Are we going to retreat from going out on the RFP so we could tell cities exactly the pricing? And what we chose instead is to say, look, let's set the maximum price goal, right? That we're never going to go beyond this pricing, you know, with very few exceptions. And in the meantime, make sure we get the facilities amendment approved so that we can go out with maximum tonnage and maximum time. So the RFP process, to answer your question in a long way, did begin, and it's with the consultants. But it'll be the product of the consultants, the executive committee, staff, even from the governing board folks, staff being engaged as we circulate the RFP to make sure we've hit all of that. So from a process standpoint, it'll be the hard work of the executive committee and the governing board ultimately to approve the RFP as it goes out and be part of that crafting process.
Got it. So the RFP process has begun. If the facilities amendment passes and if the second amendment passes, that existing RFP would be adjusted based on that. Am I saying that right?
I think it probably hasn't been drafted that deeply because we got a response pretty quick. But the question of whatever is, well, just, you know, whatever's been saved, you know, is going to be reintroduced to the executive committee and the governing board for its consideration.
Got it. And when would that happen?
So we'll have to work with the consultant, but the expectation would be that immediately after the 15th, the RFP discussion would begin with the executive committee and the governing board and a product produced by the consultant with the goal of having the RFP completely finalized and out on the street within 90 days of August 15th.
Great. Okay. So we're looking at, okay, so October-ish. Okay.
November.
So October 2026 RFP being out on the street. Or
November.
November. Now, in that, I think I heard you say this, but just so I'm clear, in that between August and November of 2026, the exec committee will work on that RFP
And the governing board.
and the governing board. And then, did I hear you right in saying cities will give their input or?
Through the executive committee and the governing board.
Great. Okay.
We're not, this is not something that goes back out to each individual commission
Right.
for discussion. I mean, we know from an RFP process, while there'll be certainly some, and we welcome the input of individual electeds, whether on this board or otherwise, the real work's going to be at the staff level.
Yep.
And TAC.
Great. That all makes sense. Excellent. So then the RFP goes out November 2026. And then what's the next marker? What happens next?
I don't want to get too down the road. The next marker would be whenever we set as when the RFP responses due.
Okay, great.
And then it's opened, and then it's either, then the executive committee, governing board are going to have to review it and make a determination. Are we accepting the responses like we normally do, or do we have to do something else? And I say, because we're talking about essentially 5 different commodity streams, if you will, do we have to do something else?
Great. So at some point in 2027, the RFP responses come back from the market. Am I saying that right so far?
Yes.
Comes back. Then the executive committee and the governing board evaluates those responses and then determines next steps.
Correct.
And at that point, do I have it right? Based on the Second Amendment, when those RFP responses come back, then at some point, once they've returned, then cities have the option to opt out.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay. Date to be determined, because that's going to determine based on when the responses come back.
Correct.
Okay.
But one of the concerns that I think had been raised is to make sure the executive committee and governing board is giving sufficient time to evaluate the RFP responses, including whether or not significant or major adjustments need to be made. And so the way the current proposed amendment that's on the table is written is that the governing board will not recommend any earlier than October 1st, 2027, the contract award, and no later than November 15th. From the date it gets recommended, the cities have 45 days. So to be transparent about this, there will have been lots of discussion and lots of input and lots of public acknowledgement of what the results are long before the governing board approves it, giving staff and individual commissions sufficient time, even with the adjustment of potentially new commissioners, new mayors, and whatever else on the different daises around the participating members.
Great. Thank you. That helps. Then I'm looking at, let me just see, I'm looking at the executive committee agenda. So is it item 5 that we're talking about right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so I see in parentheses, it says providing for a second opt-out in 2048.
Correct. That was the previous one we passed. It's simply carrying that forward. The current one is as has been outlined and has been sent to all the members.
Got it. Okay, perfect. So that's describing the prior
Correct.
amendment. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. So just want to reiterate, I personally believe in the work of the Solid Waste Authority. I'm excited to be part of it. I think what we're doing is excellent. I greatly appreciate this amendment. And what I will pledge to do is that if this amendment passes both bodies, we have a Fort Lauderdale City Commission meeting tomorrow, and I will advocate, share this update, number one, and advocate for the strength of this amendment and the importance, in my view, of the city of Fort Lauderdale continuing to participate and move forward in passing the facilities amendment, and also passing the Second Amendment as amended here. Is that
Perfect.
fair and sound?
Thank you, Member Sorensen, for your commitment. And again, thank you for stepping in.
Yep.
And you've been a welcome presence, so we
Yep.
thank you.
So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Member Horland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And before I begin, I would just like to echo what you said. Member Sorensen, we wish Fort Lauderdale had been at the table all along because your voice is needed. I did not vote for the amendment at the last meeting, and the reason I did so is exactly why we're here today. And I share many of the concerns that the chair and the vice chair have stated. I will say I'm going to vote for this today because, as has been said, we've put in far too many hours, hundreds of hours around this table to get to this point. We've also said many times we cannot let perfect be the enemy of good. And this is a generational vote. And I think it is vitally important. And that's why so many of us have not given up on this and we have stayed the course. What I'm not going to allow, and the reason I'm going to vote for the amendment today, is for rogue individuals that are not telling our story to compromise our success. I have advocated plenty of times for TAC to be involved in this process. Our staff is vital to this process. We rely on their knowledge. I do not think it's appropriate for a public work director in a city to be calling electeds another city. I think that's above their pay grade to work out other deals and to compromise what we're doing. And I want to say that. We want all 28 cities. I'd love to have all 31 cities on board. So again, we have a mission. This is not about politics. This is not about power. I do agree with Member Rydell as somebody who has been attending the majority of these meetings as we've done workshops and votes. Education was lacking all along. And, you know, we can wonder why, we can have our opinions of why, but that was definitely a thing. But I think that we have something else going on here. And I think my only question is if we pass this today, what is our guarantee that the process is not held hostage any further going down the line?
Thank you, Member Harlan. Member Caggiano.
I want to thank Fort Lauderdale and Miramar and Hollywood for engaging in this because this really is important. And as Member Shuhan said before, industry is scared and they're throwing wrenches into it. There's a good reason why they're doing it. Because they're still dealing with the old politics of divide and conquer so that they can take us to the bank. What we're doing here is something that's unbelievable. We're creating unity. And where there's unity, there's strength. Where there's strength, there's an opportunity to choose our future. And that's why they're scared. And that's why this board is so important, because we are forward looking and we are taking an opportunity to make sure that our residents have an affordable future where affordability is such a problem right now. So thank you, Ben, for the work that you've done. Member Shuhan, thank you. Member Colburn and everybody else who's participated in this, because it has been years. But it still comes down to this. We have to unify, because where there's unity, there's strength. We cannot be divided anymore. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Caggiano. Member Ryan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a few questions to clarify a couple of things. These amendments that we're passing are basically from the feedback that we got from the 3 large cities, right? From workshops.
I would say beyond that.
And the Coconut Telegram and everything.
No, I would say it was a product of both the feedback, right, that we've heard, but it also was the product of how the vote happened last time and what Member Rydell uncovered from this, that there were even small cities who said, we're passing this, but we still want what is a part of this Second Amendment, that opt-out. So it was a product of reflection on some of the holdup as well as what the vote was last time.
And, okay, thank you for clarifying that. And for the opt-out, could this be used almost as a negotiation tactic with, you know, specifically the large cities when they opt out? Since you could opt out and opt back in, could you opt out and look for more favorable options? You don't find it, and then you opt back in 2 years later, and you're kind of keeping the executive committee on a string, you know, by just holding off. And then it could be a trend and it follows. And then one more major city comes in and boom, all this work, and then this agreement just falls apart because of that. Whatever politics or whatever happens in the future, who knows? I can't predict what happens in the next 25 years. But I just, that's what cautions me about this, because like I said, for whatever reason, rumor, negotiation, we could be held like at our mercy for this, especially by the larger city. So I just wanted to have an open discussion regarding that. Thank
It's
you.
a fair point, Member Ryan. I think there's a lot to unpack there. First, let me start with a latter point that was made about opting out and opting back in. We've not yet addressed what it takes for a city to come back in or to join for the first time. We're going to have to face that, because if we achieve what we think we will through the RFP process, if we generate a system that is performing the highest mission of reducing and recycling and diverting from landfills, it would be natural for those that were not in this program to consider coming in. And we have to be prepared for that when it happens. But we've not yet proven it yet, right? So we will need to consider that. The slight variation of that issue is what you point out. Could individual big cities or a collective try to say, you know what we'll do parallel to this is try to negotiate separately with industry. And we'll try to see if we can build our own separate coalition. There's certainly been rumors out there that that's going on already. The cities that have not approved this are having their staff call around or having that discussion. But as we've been through this process, we've encountered plenty of rumors along the way. We've encountered a lot of potholes that we've had to scale or fill. And what we have to do is probably work harder to make sure that, as Member Shuham said, and I know you've committed to, which is, and your city's committed to, is the idea that the best pricing that's possible is through this process. That no individual city can go out on its own and get a better process, even if it's a short-term better price. It will not achieve the paramount goals that we have with dwindling landfill capacity, dwindling WTE capacity, and a recycling rate that's abysmal. That we will achieve that. So you're right, that is a potential. But I think that's the work of the executive committee, the governing board, the individual members here to work in a transparent and hopefully open way to make sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Also, is it possible we could change the the percentage of the opt-out? I know we need 80% to approve it, but to, dismantle it within that 25 years, could we make it a larger percentage that would have to opt out? Or is there a reason that we have the 20%?
Yeah, that's been carried over from the ILA that we negotiated 4 years ago.
Okay.
And to Member Schuman's point, to what we've all considered, right, is everything can go back on the table. We can certainly have that discussion. But we have to also balance, right, going forward, what is the distraction value versus achieving the mission? And how much time will be consumed in the distraction of that? But it was, you were part of that process too. We had a lot of discussions, right? How do we find that right balance? There's no mystical correct answer. Certainly the body and the member cities can consider that going forward as well.
Thanks, Chair.
Member Schuman.
2 points that I forgot to make. One was to also thank all the members of the board that have gone to these other cities, particularly Member Horland. I know she has worked tirelessly and really deserves our gratitude. The other thing I'm thinking is, and this is really stream of consciousness, but over the next year or few months, I'm wondering if we should come up with an opt-in scheme for the remaining cities to get in before the RFP. That's a little bit more definitive than we have now. And if they get in by a certain date, here are the rules. And I think that might really be helpful. And then we can get ourselves maybe above 28 cities. So that's just something I want to put out there, Sam. And Jamie, maybe we can think about opt-in that's more detailed than what we have right now for these few cities that aren't with us.
I think that's spot on, and we have to address it. There are probably other, like you point out, there are other issues we can look at in the ILA. Between now and August 15th, none of those really matter if we don't exist. So I think the bandwidth here has been really focused on answering the questions, hearing what's being said, but not just hearing, but listening. But going forward, I think that's a great idea that we have to work with the consultant to figure out what that looks like if additional tonnage was to come in through the RFP process. Is there even greater economies of scale that can be achieved with that delta, that incremental difference? But that should run parallel to the RFP process starting hopefully August 16th. Okay, any further comments or questions on the proposed amendment that's on the floor? All right, call the question, individual voice vote. Do you have something?
I do have something I want to bring up. What I've seen when I've gone to all these different commissions is a lot of the cities have been concerned that they're not at this table right now. So the one thing that I think that I want to remind everybody, and particularly the larger cities, is that each of the larger cities, you're not voting for just your city. You're representing the large cities. And I don't know how we do this, but at some point, I think we should be having almost a chance for the conversation for larger cities, middle cities, and before we vote, so that anybody on the governing board can weigh in. In other words, right now, you've got a couple large cities, but you have a couple that aren't here. Where do they get a chance to say, you're looking at me weird on
Yeah,
this.
I am.
Well, I know, because
We're here today. We have
I know.
almost no time.
I know that. I know. But let's say one of the other large cities wanted to weigh in and tell either any of the large cities what their thinking is.
What would be the proposal? What are you suggesting?
My suggestion is if we need to figure out how to do this so that everybody feels like they're represented.
Yeah.
I know, but they could speak if they were here to speak. They could.
We have no further delay. If this.
No, I'm not trying to delay this. I'm not trying to
But I
delay
don't know
this.
what you mean. Call them
I'm
up.
trying to say and you know that there's larger cities that want to be permanent. I'm trying to make sure that everybody gets their 2 cents in. That's all I'm trying to say.
That's been the process. That's why we come.
And if there's and I guess I'm asking if there's anybody on the governing board that wanted to weigh in at this point.
That's what we did.
I know, I'm just saying that right now. Calm down.
I know, we have to get to the governing board.
I know that. I know. But this is the vote that does that. And I'm trying to make sure because Miramar, Hollywood, there's a couple cities that aren't taking this vote. So all I'm saying is if there's anybody on the governing board that wants to weigh in now's a good time so that they're represented. That's all I'm saying.
As has been done at all the executive committee meetings, and what we've made clear to all governing board members is come to the executive committee meeting, even if you're not a voting member, even if you're not an alternate, your voice is to be heard. So, yeah.
Having heard this.
Okay, so
and
before
a
we,
bunch of commissions, I'm just saying, this is a good time, last chance to say it.
but it's not the last chance because it's got to go to the governing board next. So executive committee will open it up to any governing board members who want to be heard on this item right now. All right.
That's all I want.
Okay, call the vote.
Chair Ryan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fur,
Yes.
Member Shuham,
Yes.
Member Horland,
Yes.
Member Dunn. Yes. Member Rydell,
Yes.
Member Mead,
Yes.
Member Caggiano,
Yes.
Member AJ Ryan,
Yes.
Member Newton.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, unanimously passes. Move on to the rest of the agenda. I think most of the governing board members are here, but let's go ahead and go to the C&D and Commercial Recycling Subcommittee update. Member Mead?
Thank you, Chair. Let me defer over to Executive Director May.
Sam?
Yes, so we've been, we had a workshop at the last TAC meeting and discussed these options that came up from that workshop. We've had a few meetings with some county staff to discuss those options that came up also. We're going to continue that workshop with TAC on bring back, kind of our findings and bring it back to a workshop that we're going to have tomorrow with the TAC group and the C&D subcommittee, and hopefully get some more input, and then wrap it up with one final meeting with we'll have the county staff involved with it. So we're getting closer and closer, but there's a lot of moving parts to it that we've got to make sure that we address. We're kind of going in one direction, and we found out from the county staff that we really got to kind of bring it back more focused, where we have more enforcement power. So we'll bring that back to you probably in 2 meetings from now.
All right.
In this update.
So first of all, I want to thank the C&D subcommittee and the TAC for moving forward in each of these meetings and handling each meeting like a workshop. That is to take in as much information as possible. There was a suggestion from someone in the industry that the C&D subcommittee wasn't taking in information, or they didn't have their voice, which is just not the case. There's been plenty that's been produced and continues to be produced, and the commitment to hold them all as workshops to get a work product that gets through all the staff, all the members, and comes to the executive committee. I would strongly encourage at the next meeting that we have a real update on where we are on the ordinance. Again, to those in the industry that are looking at this, you know, we would love to pass something before August 15th, but if we don't exist, there's nothing to really pass, and we're going back out to the city. So the goal here is to have something at the next meeting, and then a final product that can be recommended to the governing board for that second meeting. And so that if we exist on August 16th, that we're pushing it out right away. And to be clear, you know, there was a commitment by the executive committee and the governing board to work parallel to achieve goals that we felt were necessary in the interim, and not to wait until it was all finished. And to Member Mead's credit and those that have been working on this, that has been achieved, and we should be in a position to make recommendations on the day that we know we exist. Member Mead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for recognizing that we have reached out to the community. We've had roundtables, we've had input from them other than roundtables, and thank you to our executive director for all the work he's done with communication. Member Horland has been a big help in that committee as well, and we are making progress. It's a bit of a challenge, as it is for the executive committee for their job too. So I want to appreciate the work that has been done by other people. Thank you, Chair.
It's as a reminder, this has been categorized and characterized as the low-hanging fruit, and yet it's been quite a challenge. So we have the work to do and to attack. I thank them. Individual staff members who are either on TAC or participate on TAC. I'll say it again, as I've said it 6 months ago. This is the time. All of your comments, all of your concerns, every issue you think that exists has to be given to the C&D subcommittee so that we get a work product. It will not be helpful to get a work product at the end of this and then hear from individual staff that, well, what about this or what about that? I'm not saying that we can't always improve, and we want to do that, but to hold back comments this is not the time to do it. And I thank you for all the hard work that you all have been doing. All right, Education Outreach Subcommittee expenditure reallocation request. Lori? And I'll turn it to Member Dunn as well.
Good morning, Chair Ryan, Vice Chair Furr, members of the Executive Committee. Member Dunn, would you like to start, or would you like me to brief on what this item is?
Yeah, you'll do that item and then I'll give an overall update.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Just a heads up, that was Channel 10 that was here. We filmed a Trash to Treasure segment, so they were grabbing some B-roll, not to be alarmed. And thank you, everyone.
That's all I'm ever good for is B-roll.
Yeah. So this item is not a request, just to be clear, for more funding. We have a budget for this year, simply just asking, we charge for our services flat hourly rate, whether we're doing a media or an advertisement, whatever have you. But we had some things outlined when we did the best we could at the beginning of the year to determine what work would go on here, but now we need those monies for some other activities. So the Education Outreach Subcommittee has brought to you this item today, just to be able to have freedom with those dollars to use them as needed until the end of the year. So just to be clear, what we're asking for, We have about 400 hours left on our contract for this year to not use them specifically for schools, which we know the curriculum's coming. We're kind of paused with that right now as they're in summer. Business outreach, as C&D ordinance is getting worked out, but we want to be able to use that time effectively now to keep building that awareness and that care that will help us lead to behavior change. In addition to that, we have about $100,000 in hard costs, things that we're not going to do right now, some focus groups, some recycling posters, things of that nature. They want to be able to use those funds to support the efforts that we're doing now.
Okay.
Questions?
So what's the specific request then? Member Dunn.
So it's simply allowing us to reallocate the budget. So the amount stays the same, but we're just shifting from different pockets. Do you have the backup for that?
I do. So what
Yeah.
we're asking for is $106,000 that was broken up into hard costs, focus group, direct mail for businesses, LinkedIn campaigns, paid media with trades, and those Recycle Across America posters to be able to use those funds for ad work we're doing now. And then for our services, we have about 400 hours that was broken up between schools and businesses. And we want to be able to use that, continue the recycle right efforts, reduce contamination, and then supporting the authority on the PIO efforts that we do.
Okay. Member Dunn, do you want to make a motion on the allocation? We can have a discussion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Member Shuham. All right. Any discussion on the request for reallocation? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any new and old business before we transition to the government?
Just to give a quick update on what else the communication effort's been up to. So we thank you, Chair, for doing a great interview with Jackie Nesbral, Vice Chair with WLRN. We've had articles come out in the Sun Sentinel, a lot of great media placements. And our pledge, we are close to 1,000. We're well over 1,000 pledges now of folks agreeing to pledge to recycle right. And we'll continue to make sure that the communications effort is supporting fully the Get to Yes effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Dunn. To the credit of the Executive Committee and the Governing Board, from the outset, education was seen as key. There was a clear commitment to invest to make up the ground we had not been able to achieve as individual cities, and it's starting to pay off. And so we truly appreciate that. Again, it was one of those parallel efforts along with C&D that had to begin immediately, and the Education Subcommittee under your leadership, Member Dunn, has done a tremendous amount of work. And so thank you very much, and thank you to Lori and her team. Member Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Separate topic, new business, again, a process question. I'm seeing on the executive committee, a member unassigned large city position. What's the process or timing of that election or naming of that person?
Right now, Member Coburn is the alternate, has been serving. It's up to the will of the body when they want to do a vote. I query whether that needs to be done before August 15th, because if we don't exist, the work of whatever has been happening or the friction that's caused by it, everybody wants the seat, which is a good thing, but I leave it to the members to decide how they want to go forward with it. Member Horley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Member Sorensen's point, I thought we were going to hold a vote. I think it's a moot point at this point because we don't have any meetings left, but I was hoping that we would have gathered before this meeting and had the large cities either via Zoom or in this room to go ahead and have that election. So I did support you on that.
Yeah, we have to hold it through one of these meetings. It has to be noticed, and then it has to be sunshine and everything else. So we're happy to do it if you want to do the next meeting. Makes whatever the will of folks are.
We can. I don't think it needs to be the full body. I think it should be the way that we did it in the incorporation of the SWA, where the large cities, the medium cities, and the small cities gather together. I think it would, if the will of the body is to do before the next meeting, I'd like to hear from everyone. But I did think that we should have an election with the large cities involved.
Sure. And so we need to make sure we notice it in fairness to all the large cities. And I think it has to be conducted under the same rules where we have to have a quorum, we have to have everybody here. So while the mid-sized cities and the other cities don't have a direct vote, they're part of the process. So whatever you like, whatever everyone would like to do, we can certainly notice it for the next meeting to give all members an opportunity of particularly the large cities, so that they know to be here for the executive committee vote, which is whatever you all want to do. Member Sarson, your light's still on. I don't know if you wanted to comment.
That sounds great to me, but I defer to you all as an executive committee.
All
Thank you.
right, so is there a motion to do that? Because I want to make sure we're clear on the agenda. Member Fur.
This is exactly the point I was bringing before, is reminding everybody that when you're at the table here, you're representing a group. You're not just representing your city. And I know some cities that want to have a seat at the table are thinking, our city's not there. Your city's there no matter what, because you're being represented. If Fort Lauderdale's not there, or Miramar, or whoever's not there, you're being represented. That's the important part of this. That's why I was bringing that up.
All right, so is there a desire of the executive committee? This is where this goes. The executive committee to have on the next meeting, an election by the large cities for the seat that is vacant and being managed by the alternate.
I'll say yes to that.
Okay,
Okay, yep, I'll make a motion if one is needed.
I'll second it.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, perfect. We'll have it on the next meeting and make sure there's appropriate notice to everyone. All right, any further new or old business for the
Sir,
executive committee?
just one comment on that. So the next meeting is July 17th. Is that, am I
Correct.
tracking that right? So I'm in the United States Navy. I'm going to be on Navy duty that day and unable to participate. So I
First of
just
all,
share that
thank you
as a,
for your service.
I don't know what to do about that.
Well, we could certainly try to, it's kind of a challenge, right, to reschedule, but we could reschedule the meeting from July 17th. When do you go on duty?
So I'm on duty about July 3rd through July 31st. I don't want to hold up the process. I just don't know how. Yeah. Okay. So have an alternate be here? Is that?
Just so it's clear,
Yep.
the executive committee elections are individual people, so you don't have to be here to run, but your
Okay.
alternate could be here to represent your interests, but and
Okay.
to vote for Fort Lauderdale, but that person could not be on the executive committee. It would have to be you as the person from Fort Lauderdale. But there's no meetings until September, so I'm not, you can decide. By the way, there's going to be another opening in November, maybe multiple openings in November. So
There's a meeting in July. What are you saying? No meeting.
well, no, after the July meeting, it's no meeting until
Right.
September. So
So
you
I think
could
that
do it
makes,
meeting in September or
No.
in November, there's gonna be more elections.
Yeah.
Just-
There's an August 21st executive committee. There's an August 21st executive.
Okay, well, this is a governing board issue, not an executive.
No,
committee
it's
meeting.
an
Because
executive-
all the large cities, not just the large cities on the executive committee. We've always done it at governing board.
I know, but all the cities have to be here. I understand, but it's for the appointment to the executive. committee.
Executive committee.
That's correct.
Right, so,
From the large cities on the governing board.
correct.
That's correct.
But there is executive committee work that's going to start if we still exist after the 15th. So it's up to you, whatever suggestion you have. First of all, if you're gone from the 3rd to the 31st, when is Fort Lauderdale going to address the facilities amendment?
July 2nd. July 2nd. We have
All
a
right,
commission.
well, I'll bring a care package as well for you to take. with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I think it pleases the body. I can talk with the Fort Lauderdale City Commission tomorrow at our commission meeting. Ask if the alternate could be there and we can plan to have the alternate here on July 17th. Possibly myself be considered and go in that direction.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question of Attorney Cole? This is precisely why I would hope that we had this election before summer began because so many people were traveling. Attorney Cole, is there a reason why we cannot publicly notice a Zoom call and hold a meeting of the large cities to get this election done? Is there anything precluding us from doing so?
There's an interesting disagreement between the Attorney General and myself as to whether or not you can do that. I personally think you can. The Attorney General thinks you need quorums in person, so I think that is a problem. I mean, in order to take action at that meeting, you probably would need to have a quorum in person. And this is like the large cities who are members of the governing board is who would be technically meeting because they're the ones who make the decision. So you need a quorum of that group. physically in person, but you could have a separate meeting just for that if you wanted to.
How about if we tried to have a separate meeting of the large cities late next week, if anyone was available?
But it's
I
gotta
know
be
it's
the
short.
governing board.
Pardon me?
Has to be the governing.
Well, technically, just the large cities on the governing board make the decision.
How
We've
does
we've
the
done it
how does the governing board have quorum if it's just the large cities?
we've always done it as part of a governing board meeting.
Yeah.
But we've broken the governing board into 3 sections when we do that. There's no rule about it. There's nothing in here in our agreement that talks about quorums for the large city subcommittee. So I would say it would just be a governing board meeting. And you would still need a quorum.
Yeah, I mean, we can have an individual meeting just on that issue at any time in between, but certainly before member sorts and leaves. Just be mindful that obviously, Miramar and Coral Springs have very strong positions on this as well. And so I wonder how far we get with it, but we need to be together, not divided. I'm hoping that a vote like that doesn't then be reflected as somebody wasn't wanted again, or they weren't part of it. And then there are individual members that feel raw that causes, cities to look at this differently, but it's whatever the will of the body. Want to schedule a separate meeting? We can do that. No, nothing's holding us up. Want to wait till the 17th? We want to see if we even exist. Whatever the will of the body is.
If Chair, if it's the will of the body, if something could happen more quickly, I think that'd be fantastic, but just my view.
That's fair. And we certainly can. I think we just need to be aware. That cities who didn't get a position carried forward a pretty negative attitude about the executive committee work. And that was problematic, and we continue to live with that. We're within 60 days of knowing whether we exist. And whatever the will is, we can try to see from Clay, from at least what went the rooms available. We can hold it, but somebody's going home not being part of this. And just need to be clear that there's a single position open as an alternate. And I kind of, to Vice Chair's point, yes, I would hope that individual cities that don't become an executive committee member don't continue to have an issue with the work that's being done just because they're either not chosen or because of votes. And it's a very uncomfortable situation for the rest of the large cities, at a point at which, to Member Caggiano's point, this is where we should be declaring unity. So if you'd like, we can circulate potential dates for a meeting before July 2nd that would be available. I think we have to be mindful that all of the large cities need to show up, because someone who doesn't show up and can't be on may feel the rub. And at a time when we need to be working together, shoulder to shoulder, whoever is on the committee or not. So how would you like to proceed? Right now it's on the 17th. There's an interest in trying to move it up quicker, as has been suggested by Member Sorensen, Member Horland. Yes, Member Morset.
Yeah, I would like to see it moved up. I mean, a lot of people have travel arrangements for the summer.
Member Ernst.
Yeah, real quickly, doesn't have to be 100% vote.
No, it doesn't, of the large cities.
Right, what I'm saying, if you have 2 large cities that want it bad, the one person can hold it up.
Sorry?
Does the vote have to be 100%?
No, it's a popularity vote, or it's just a vote.
Popularity.
So it can be divided and by 1, which is what's happened in the past,
Okay.
by certain numbers. So it's just the member cities, and all their votes are public. The large cities all write down who they want, which creates, in it of itself, it hasn't created a lot of banks to this point, but there have been moments in time where that friction alone caused some to withdraw from the process entirely, and some in part. So sometimes we get the governance we deserve, right? So however you all want to handle it. We need to move by this. We can get to the governing board. So please, I invite. Member Schuman.
I just think there's so much going on. with commission meetings in the next few weeks, that if you could have your alternate physically present on the 17th and you virtually, is there a downside to that?
Unfortunately, I can't be virtually because I'm on Navy duty and
Oh,
I can't.
He
step
doesn't
away
have
from
to, he
duty.
doesn't have to be here present.
You don't have to be here to run. I mean, you could express today your desire and your alternate could be there to speak on your behalf.
my concern is simply to make a shift like this in the middle of all of these commission meetings that are coming up. I don't know. If you're comfortable with the vote on the 17th with your alternate here, I mean, we want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, so I guess my feedback would be if it's July, if the will of the body is July 17th as the earliest it can be, then my suggestion would be, could we wait till August 21st? I think would be my suggestion if the 17th is the earliest. That way, I'll just double check. I'm not on Navy duty in August. I don't think I will.
I will not be here on August 21st, so I just wanted to add that. So if you're willing to wait until August, I'm not sure why we don't just wait until September at that point. You know,
Okay.
because we're running out of time. So it's up to you, Member Sorensen.
Does the alternate need to be here for me to be considered as a candidate?
Yes. The alternate has to be a vote. Somebody.
No, if you're not here, you could still be elected.
Right. But you're gonna have a
you won't be able
forum
to
vote. You always want your alternate here so we can have a forum.
I just don't know if the alternate will be able to be here at 17th. That's
Right.
the reason I just mentioned that because I don't know their schedule.
And in fairness, we don't know if Coral Springs and Miramar can be here.
Right. Then my adjusted suggestion would be, because it sounds like we can't go before July 17th, then I'd say September would be my suggestion.
Member Burke.
I think that'd probably be for the best. Plus, I want to make sure that each one of those cities is member at that point has voted to be a part of this. That's what I want to see.
Okay. All right, so we had a
One-
motion
one
and
more,
a second
Chair.
for.
One more
the
thing.
second.
I can see exactly what he means because if he's not here and something comes up, he's not able to sit there and defend himself or to provide more information. I understand 100% where you're at because if you're not here, you have no, you don't have a spot at the table that day. So
I'll
Right, so
amend my motion for the September meeting to hold the election.
The motion's withdrawn from July 17th, where we had a motion and second. I think what she
Yes.
meant was is Fort
Yes.
Lauderdale going to sign the facilities amendment so that you're here in September.
Yes,
Okay, perfect.
I'll be
That's
here.
what we like.
And just for the will of the body, just one of the possible challenges I may have to overcome with my fellow commissioners in the city of Fort Lauderdale is that we may be considered for membership election on the executive committee, but that won't happen until September. So I just want to share that that's going to be a challenge I'll have to address. And I don't know how that will impact people's thinking, but just want to share that. Thank you.
So
Yes.
there are
Agreed.
broader issues that, to Member Shuham's point earlier, that certainly can be addressed. Remember, we created this ILA 4 years ago, and the fact that we're coming to the finish line and there's all this excitement of large cities to want to be part of this process on an ongoing basis, even though everybody's invited, but want to be pushing this forward, want to be seen as pushing this forward, want to be a member to push this forward is terrific. And we should embrace it. And I think there are solutions for our governance as we get by. If we get by this, and I have some proposals for adjusting that and make sure that happens. Member Shuham.
I'm sorry, Member Sorensen, when is the last meeting of your commission prior to summer break?
We are voting on the First Amendment, the Facilities Agreement, and possibly the Second Amendment, July 2nd. July
Okay.
2nd.
So in reality, whether it's July 17th or September 19th or 18th, it's the same
Correct.
It wouldn't
My-
be happening before your last meeting.
It would be happening after, yeah. My ability to persuade or encourage my fellow commissioners would be best suited if I could say I was considered for the executive committee prior to July 2nd and a vote was taken. That ability obviously diminishes rapidly after July 2nd.
Yeah,
Because
but,
we will
you know,
vote on it.
here's the reality, right? If the Second Amendment's passed, Fort Lauderdale can vote out and leave for any reason. They don't like the governance structure, they're stopped out. We've given ourselves that year's time frame to make all the adjustments, and there are other adjustments that probably have to be made to the ILA. That needs to be part of it. And if for some reason either the executive committee or the governing board doesn't pay the necessary respect that is perceived as necessary to any city, whether it's Lazy Lake or Fort Lauderdale, and they have the option to leave. And that's our work. So I would hope the retort to it is simply, yeah, we're going to be part of this. And if we don't like it, we'll leave.
Agreed, Chair. And also my feedback to Fort Lauderdale City Commission is I am currently not a member of the executive committee. I have never been a member of the executive committee, and I have been fully involved, engaged, supported, communicated with, fully allowed to participate as though I'm a member of the executive committee. That's been my experience, which I appreciate from everyone because it is a grace you provide for me and everyone else who's not part of the executive committee. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Member Sorensen, for saying that. From the outset, all the members recognize that we're just neighbors. That we had the opportunity to do something that was denied us 40 years ago. And we had the chance to do it together for the first time, everybody around the table. And I give credit to the executive committee and the governing board members who come, even though they may not be. And again, the kind of the poster child for that. And I know that probably doesn't like being on posters much, but is Mayor Bright Cruz, right? Who is an alternate, and there is nobody in the public who could even perceive whether he's an alternate or not based on his engagement in every meeting. Sometimes he doesn't even vote, but that's been the commitment of this body. And it needs to be the commitment going forward no matter what. No matter who's on the executive committee, that every governing board member has the right to show up and be heard. So thank you for saying that, Mr. Member Sorensen. All right, any further business, or can I adjourn this executive committee? Motion to adjourn by Member Shuhan, seconded by Member Newton. All in favor, say aye. All right, we're going to adjust. We have a quorum? All right. No.
We do right now.
All right. Don't anybody leave just yet. I'm going to call to order the Solid Waste Authority meeting of June 15, 2026 Governing Board. If you would, please call the roll. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead and call the roll. Anybody on the governing board who is sitting in the audience and needs to come to the table. All right. Call the roll.
Chair Ryan. Vice Chair Ferg.
Here.
Member Sorensen.
Here.
Member Shuham. Member Colborn. Member Sarah online.
Present virtually.
Thank you. Member Lewis.
Here.
Member Horland.
Here.
Member Plout online.
Here.
Member Patterson.
Here.
Patterson. Member Mead.
Here.
Member Caggiano.
Present.
Member Rydell.
Here.
Member Bordelon. Member Murphy Salamone.
Present.
Member Thomas.
Present.
Member Curran.
Here.
Member AJ Ryan.
Here.
Member Eveyard online. I see her on there. Member Newton.
Here.
Member Stafford.
Here.
Member Bright Cruz.
Here.
Member Strauss. Member Morissette,
Here.
Member Ravanesi, Member Tomlinson. For alternates,
here. Every is here.
thank you. For alternates online, if you could let me know you're here. For the record,
All right, do we have a quorum?
Yeah,
Just call Member Dunn?
Member Dunn's here.
You forgot to open for.
I missed
Oh,
it.
no.
I'm sorry, Member Dunn.
Also Oakland Park. Forget Barnes. Present.
Here.
Still here.
Yeah.
Still.
All right, anyone else we missed? Anybody in attendance who didn't get called? Okay, if you would, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance.
Of the United States. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, public comment, Richard Ramcharatar. There you go.
Testing. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and Governing Board members. The global zero waste movement continues to gain momentum. Earlier this month, the zero waste leaders, policymakers, researchers, and advocates from around the world gathered at the International Zero Waste Forum in Turkey. They shared strategies focused on waste prevention, resource conservation, circular economy principles, and climate action. Here in South Florida, we have an opportunity to put many of those same principles into practice through the Broward County Solid Waste and Recycling Master Plan. Implementation will require more than infrastructure and programs. It will require regional collaboration, innovation, and broad participation among Broward County's municipalities. Across the region, communities are already advancing zero waste initiatives. Miami-Dade County's Department of Solid Waste Management continues to support pilot programs that are evaluating innovative diversion strategies, including biochar production and from clean yard debris and commercial scale composting of organics. These projects are generating valuable real-world data that can help inform future waste reduction and resource recovery efforts. Likewise, the town of Southwest Ranches has initiated development of zero waste initiatives tailored to its unique rural, equestrian, and agricultural character while supporting the broader goals and framework of Broward County's master plan. That is why Broward Clean Air supports the Second Amendment to the interlocal agreement. A strong regional system works best when all communities have a seat at the table and a voice in the decision-making process. We also encourage continued engagement with municipalities that have not yet joined the ILA, including the city of Pembroke Pines. The long-term success of the master plan will depend on bringing together all of the Broward's municipalities to help shape solutions, share best practices, and work toward common goals. By working together, Broward County can build a more resilient, sustainable, and cost-effective materials management system that benefits residents, businesses, and future generations. Thank you for your leadership and your commitment to this important county-wide initiative.
Thank you, Richard. Stephanie Pearson.
Morning, Stephanie Pearson with the League of Women Voters. First of all, I just want to say that we are in support of the Second Amendment that the Executive Committee just passed, and we certainly hope that the Governing Board does go ahead and approve it as well, just so that we can get this process going and move forward. We all need to be on board. We greatly appreciate the support of Fort Lauderdale's representative, Commissioner Sorensen, this morning, and hope that he's able to speak with his fellow commissioners. And we also have to be concerned, of course, about the fellow commissioners of some of the other larger cities, which have not yet voted to accept this. Some of the arguments that we've been talking about and you've been talking about, especially related to the larger cities, include, of course, a better bargaining power that we'll have if we all work together, harmonizing the recycling procedures and messages so that recycling goes up and contamination goes down. We have residents that move within the county and also that, of course, travel to different events throughout the county. And it's important to remember that if everything's the same, we're all much better off. One of the other things that we really should be reminding of all of us should be thinking about is the fact that we have a port, we have an airport, we have libraries, we have parks, we have hospitals. And if we're not all on the same page, it's going to be more confusion, more contamination. So if everyone is on the same page and we have the same messaging and so forth, the same bins, we're all going to be much better off with a cohesive system. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right, anyone else who's signed up for the governing board public comment? All right, I'll close public comment. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 18th, 2026? Motion by member Horland, seconded by member Solomon. Any discussion on that? No. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, it passes. All right, item 5, potential addition of proposed second amendment to the interlocal agreement. Is there anybody on the governing board who did not sit through the discussion of the executive committee on this item? All right, so I won't go back through the issues of announcing it, but we would need a motion on what was recommended unanimously from the executive committee to be considered by the governing board, and then a discussion on that item. Do I have a motion?
Or you need a motion to reconsider first.
Okay, motion to reconsider brought by member Sorensen. Let me just make clear, was member Sorensen on the Victoria side of that vote, 10-8 vote or whatever it was?
No.
Okay, I need a member who was.
Withdraw.
Make a motion to reconsider.
Member Bright Cruz, seconded by members Rydell Caggiano team. All right, all in favor of the motion to reconsider, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, now that, can we have a motion on the item? Member Sorensen, you want to make the motion?
Moved.
Motion by member Sorensen. Do we have a second? By member Shu Ham. All right, discussion on this item. Even though everyone was here, if there's any further discussion on this item as proposed, now's the time to do it.
Thank you again for this consideration and this amendment. I greatly appreciate it. Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Call the question by roll.
Chair Ryan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fur,
Yes.
Member Sorensen,
Yes.
Member Shuham,
Yes.
Member Sarah online,
Yes.
Member Lewis.
Yes.
Member Horland.
Yes.
Alternate Plout online,
Yes.
Member Dunn. Member Mead,
Yes.
Member Caggiano,
Yes.
Member Rydell,
Yes.
Member Ernst,
Yes.
Member Murphy Salamone,
Yes.
Member Thomas,
Yes.
Member Curran,
Yes.
Member AJ Ryan,
Yes.
Member Everyard online,
Yes.
thank you. Member Newton,
Yes.
Member Stafford,
Yes.
Member Bright Cruz,
Yes.
Member Morissette,
Yes.
Alternate Andriano.
Yes.
I think that's it.
All right. Thank you to the governing board members for that unanimous approval. All right, Mr. Cole, from here, you'll transmit this to all of the cities today, to the city attorneys, and request that those that have already passed the facilities amendment to put it on their agendas and to be considered by those who have yet to vote on the facilities amendment to be considered in tandem with the facilities amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. May will do that. I will prepare a form resolution to go along with it. I guess two form resolutions, one for those who've already passed the facilities amendment and one who haven't, because I guess they'll be a little
Okay.
bit different.
And there's 3 votes being taken on Wednesday. So we have to do this kind of quick.
Whatever the number of votes, we'll get out today. And so, all right, well, along with that, we have item 6, Executive Director's update on the upcoming votes and workshops.
Yes, so.
Microphone.
So we have upcoming votes coming up on June 17th, Coral Springs, June 23rd, Wilton Manors, June 29th, Lauderhill, June 30th, North Lauderdale, July 2nd, Fort Lauderdale, July 7th, Hollywood, July 7th, yes, July 15th, Oakland Park, July 27th, Davie, and July 30th is Deerfield, and it says workshop. Hopefully it's workshop/vote. So far, there's no meeting scheduled for Lauderdale by the Sea, Lighthouse Point, Miramar, or Parkland. So please, if you can, get those on your agendas. Also, as the chair said, all the cities who've approved the facilities amendment will need to have the second amendment on their agendas for approval by August 14th. So that's the ones who've already approved the.
They don't have to, but we're going to get it out to them. But we've already.
We'll hope that they get it out there.
Yeah.
Then. Yes, that's the goal.
Okay.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Any questions to Executive Director on these upcoming votes?
Chair,
Yes.
just real quick, can we publish those out somewhere? Are they somewhere where we can get a hold of them? Because I just like to, you ran them off really great. I'm glad they're out there, but I want to compare those against my calendar.
Those are on the SWA, Broward SWA website.
They are out there?
Yeah. And
Okay.
it's upcoming votes.
All right. Thank you.
Member Burke.
Yeah, I think we need to, I think that's important because I think it has made a difference when a number of us have showed up at commission meetings. And I think this is actually a good time to figure out who can go where. I mean, it's important. It makes a big difference when there's a lot of us there having a chance to talk and we're face to face with our counterparts. So I guess the next meeting is which one? Is this Wednesday, right?
Wednesday, July 17th with Coral Springs. There were 2 other ones that were scheduled, but those got pushed out. So those are July 17th is the only meeting we have on Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Coral Springs.
So I would
I'm sorry.
invite all the
June
members.
17th, Coral Springs.
Invite all the members to go to the website also. Lisa's been sending around, I believe, that list to look at that, look at your schedules, and to the extent you can appear. Again, member Horland's has the record right now for attendance at these and probably will maintain that record all the way through. And of course, Mary Lou, who's not a member of the SWA, has been to all of them as well. So thank you to the Broward League of Cities. Member Wright Cruz, anything from? Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay,
Thank you.
okay, Colin Resnick? Yes. Hang on. Colin Resnick?
Hi, Alex Patron with the accounting firm Cohen Resnick here today to go over the financial position of the Broward SWA as of the end of May 2026. The authority had cash and cash equivalents of $2,574,000. Its accounts receivable balances were $668,000. When subtracting the entity's liabilities from their total assets, the authority's net equity position stood at $3,115,000. Based on its current financial position, the Broward SWA does have sufficient liquidity to meet its budgetary spending needs through the end of the fiscal year, which ends September 2026.
All right, any questions on the financials? Thank you, appreciate it. New or old business, anybody want to introduce any additional items? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by member Newton, seconded by member Lewis. All in favor, say aye. We're adjourned. Well done, all.